We're going to watch the Scott Jund video from the beginning. We've already watched about half of it, but there's some points that I want to stop and like respond to throughout the first half. And this is also just free content, which Scott loves when I use his name for free content.
So this
That's
happens
cool,
like
Jack.
anytime I see an outsider talking shit about the community, it's kind of like that really silly mindset of like, hey man, fuck you. You don't get to make fun of our shitty community. Only we get to do that.
I actually like fully agree with the first part of it. And like the thing is like, yeah, it's a silly mindset, but I also want to be like, look, the reason that we get to make fun of our shitty community is because we've lived this shit. Because like knowing what the DBD community is capable of and actually living through what the DBD community is capable of are two very different things. Once you've actually had to deal with this bullshit, it's a whole different beast.
They very often conflate entitlement with toxicity. And I want to talk about those two things. I've talked about these kind of in the past.
This is like one of the base like things that Scott does in the first half of this video. And I'm not going to pause every time he repeats himself because then I'd be repeating myself and it'd just be an endless cycle of both of us repeating ourselves. And both Scott and I are bad about repeating ourselves. So I disagree fundamentally here that entitlement and toxicity are not the same things, because the entitlement bolsters the toxicity, right? It is the entitlement of this community that leads to some of the most toxic shit you've ever seen in your life, right? People hurling slurs, telling you to off yourself, getting doxxed because of some of this shit. Like there's a point a little bit later where Scott's like, oh, I've been playing games online for like almost 30 years. And this is all, in his opinion, this isn't the worst. I've been playing games online almost as long as Scott has. And in my opinion, the Dead by Daylight community is the worst one I've ever seen, because it is the only community that I have ever come across that takes things outside of the game to the extreme. It is the only gaming community I have ever dealt with out of all of them. League of Legends, Overwatch, Call of Duty, Valorant, Hearthstone, Halo, Gears of War, fucking pick an MMO community, right? Guild Wars and WoW and all of that. This is the only gaming community I have ever seen that consistently, obviously not all of them, but consistently has people do things like dox you, go out of their way to send you death threats, mail shit to your house, write fucking 30-page Google Docs about you, go on Twitter and attempt to get people to harass and deplatform you because you said that they got lucky in a video game. All of these things. This is the only community that consistently takes their anger outside of the game and then goes the extra mile to be the most obnoxiously dangerous people in the entire gaming space. The entitlement of Dead by Daylight's community runs so deep that they will legitimately go on multi-day tirades that a person is an actual bad human being because they tunneled his killer. It's the only community that I've ever seen do this kind of shit. I've seen people complain about people using things to win the game, right? Call of Duty, the camping complaints back in Call of Duty were absurd. I never one time in my entire life have ever seen a Call of Duty player threaten to show up at a guy's house and hurt them because they camped in a video game. And it goes past that, right? I've done multiple videos about the accessibility problems of Spirit and how I, as a partially deaf person, can't play against her. The last time I did a video about that, somebody told me that they were going to come to my house and shoot me in the face because I said that Spirit should have visual cues in her face. Unironically told me they wanted to shoot me in the face. And then when I got doxxed, Like a few months later, they left a comment on another video saying they were trying to get my house information so they could do it. They were mad for several months because I said Spirit should have visual indicators so that deaf people can play. This is the only fucking gaming community you will ever see that kind of shit pop up out. Only one. The only gaming community that legitimately threatens death over your opinions in a video game. So I fundamentally disagree that there's a difference between the entitlement and the toxicity. I think that the toxicity we all talk about is bred from the overabundance of entitlement that exists within Dead by Daylight.
But this just came up again and people are talking about it on Twitter now, so I want to kind of reiterate some of the points I kind of forgot to say last time. So I think a problem is people don't understand the difference between toxicity and entitlement. Entitlement is what a lot of people do bring up, and that's basically what this guy says in this tweet here. He basically goes over, the made-up rules, and if you don't follow the made-up rules, then people get mad at you, which is obviously a very silly and ridiculous thing, which, I think most people would agree with that. But toxicity is a different thing. Someone just saying, you face cam me, you suck. I don't consider that toxicity. Toxicity is like people telling you to kill yourself, taking shit outside of the game. And again, I'm not saying this doesn't happen in the DBD community, but it doesn't happen disproportionately more than any other multiplayer game. And
that's where I disagree. I disagree that it doesn't happen disproportionately, because it 100% does. I've been told to kill myself in other games. Famously, I don't like the Riot community. League of Legends, Valorant, all that. I don't like it. Because both times I've tried Riot games, Valorant and League of Legends, within the first 2 hours of me playing the game, I got told to off myself because I was a new player and didn't know what to do. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen in other games, but I disagree fundamentally that it's not disproportionate. Because the Dead by Daylight community does it more consistently than any other community I've ever seen.
As someone that has played Dota for over a decade, I can assure you, I am 100% sure Dead by Daylight does not have the most toxic community out there. I would say it's relatively normal. It's not really better or worse than any other multiplayer game with a lot of competitive aspects to it. It's just kind of normal. Now,
at the risk of stroking Scott's ego, love you, Scott. I think that the reason Scott doesn't think that this kind of stuff happens as consistently is because of the fact that, two things. One, Scott is conventionally attractive. Like, yeah, he's not the hottest dude you've ever met, but in terms of average looking guys, Scott is at the upper echelon. But also, Scott's a bigger name, right? Scott is a much bigger name. And a lot of people might think that that means that he would deal with more toxicity, but toxic people and bullies in general are fucking cowards. So while yes, his name's going to probably show up more, he's not going to deal with as much because people are scared of retaliation from his community. Even though there's a running joke that nobody hates Scott Junn more than the Scott Junn community. But the point is that because Scott is so much bigger in terms of number size, he doesn't have to deal with as much. And that's just a harsh reality. Unless it comes from another streamer's community, right? So when him and, I'm not going to name the name, though most people know, when him and another creator got into a spat, and then that spat got brought up again later on, that creator's community attacked Scott, doxed him, went after his family, that kind of shit, but only because they were emboldened by the creator. So I don't think that Scott realizes that for the average smaller people, especially the average player, like even taking me out of the equation, because I'm a smaller creator, right? But taking me out of the equation, just the average player with no audience will deal with 100 times more toxicity than Scott would deal with because of who he is. And that's no shade on him. I just think that his size, and I think that his size is kind of shadowing, is tilting his perception of what people deal with.
I don't know why people act like Dead by Daylight is the only game that has these made-up rules. Every game that exists has these made-up rules. Like, I don't understand why DBD gets so much shit for having, you know, a rule book that doesn't actually exist, but people expect you to follow?
Because once again, it's about proportions, right? Dead by Daylight is the only game that consistently has people bitching about this rule book. And also, the rule book, the player rule book for Dead by Daylight is way larger than any other game, right? Like in Call of Duty, you had, you can't camp and you can't use these two guns or you're a nerd. And then Dead by Daylight is like a fucking TED Talk. You have to take an entire 6-month course to learn all of the shit people hate about you if you do. You know what I mean? We're comparing my journal here to the fucking Encyclopedia Britannica of fucking made up rules. And the made up rules are so varied that they conflict with each other. I will never forget, I was playing Dredge. There was a achievement for Dredge, or there is an achievement for Dredge where you have to pull people out of a locker as the Dredge, or maybe it was a tome quest, one of the two. And so I decided to farm it. And the end game was there were 4 of them alive, and none of them had hook states. So I decided to farm that tome. And one of the people came into chat and actively said to uninstall the game and then slit my own wrist because I gave them a boring end game. But then other survivors turn around and they get mad because you can't hook at the end game. You let them all go, they get mad. You try to camp and secure a kill, they get mad. That has stuck with me for the past 2 years. It's stuck in my head because it's the proportions. But he is right. Some people do act like this is the only game that does it.
I mean, that's fine. They're allowed to have that opinion. But in terms of balance, if people do not play both sides, at least with some regularity, you should just discard their opinions because they're just not going to be able to understand the difference. And that is really, it's so simple that is the main reason a lot of people think that DBD has a more entitled community. It's just...
I don't disagree, but the reason doesn't remove the truth that Dead by Daylight has the most entitled community. That makes sense? Right? He's right about why it's the most entitled community. But that doesn't remove the truth that it's the most entitled. You know what I mean? And another big issue, this is just a side tangent, but another big issue is the way that people talk to new players. Not necessarily bullying them, but planting these seeds in their head, right? So I think the most amount of entitlement I usually come across is from someone who has less than 20 hours in the game, right? Because they'll come in, they'll pick Survivor, because Survivor is normally the first. I think Survivor is the first thing you learn about in the tutorial. So most people jump to Survivor almost immediately. They'll pick Survivor. And then they'll play 4 or 5 games. Maybe they'll play with their friends or they'll talk to people online or something, or even in the in-game chat, and they'll hear all these buzzwords, right? Tunneling, camping, slugging, toxic, blah, 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 blah. And then that plants a seed in their heads. And so someone in a game will get tunneled. And then this new player has learned by proxy that tunneling is bad. And so then they turn around and push that toxicity back to killers, and it becomes just this endless cycle. And that's part of the problem with Dead by... I made a video on this almost 2 years ago, I think, about the endless cycle of toxicity within this game that just never stops. That's why every time you guys come and watch my stream, that's why every single time I'm pissed off during a match, I never let it go outside, right? No matter what gets done to me. I don't care if the entire team is bullying the fuck out of me, hyper stunning, flashlighting. During that game, I might be yelling and screaming and mad and pissed off. But the moment we hit that end screen, man, I just don't fucking care anymore. Because it doesn't matter anymore. And so many people who come to this stream are like surprised. Because like people will come in and be like, yo, sorry for all the head-on stuns. And I'll be like, whatever, man, it's fine, GG's. And they're shocked. Because what they're expecting is the streamer to go, fuck you, you piece of shit, you're banned, and throw a fucking temper tantrum. And because that's what they're used to. Because that's the cycle of toxicity. And so then I get people following me because I'm not being a dickhead after the match is over. I might be one during the match, but at the end of the day, it's a fucking video game. And this community just takes it too fucking far.
Kind of infrequent can be fixed by clicking the post-game chat button. You can just close that window. You literally don't have to see it ever if you don't want to. You can't do that on League or Overwatch or Dota or any of these games. You are going to have people yelling at you a voice chat, calling you slurs, telling you to kill yourself. If it's not that, that's going to be in the typed chat. That's why those games are more toxic. Anyone that thinks DBD is more toxic than those games, I just have to, you're wrong. I don't know.
No, dude. Okay. All right. No. We cannot do that. We cannot. No. This is, God, I love you, Scott, man, but this is just intellectually dishonest, man. Because you can turn the chat off in those games as well. First off, you can turn every single one of those games. You can turn the chat off. I know, because I do it all the fucking time. Second off, those communities keep the shit in game. Right? They don't come find you on fucking Twitter. They don't add you on fucking PlayStation Plus or Xbox. They don't fucking try to find your Discord or your Twitch or whatever. They don't fucking try to get you outside of the game. For the most part. Like I said, it's about the consistent proportion sizes, right? It's about the fact that DBD disproportionately has a community that goes out of their way to go after you. And I think too, maybe I'm wrong here. I might be way off, but I think that the reason the DBD community tries to go outside the game so much is because they don't have the ability to do it in the game. Because they can't shit talk you inside of the game during the match, they go outside of it. And they do everything in their power, bro. If you're on Steam, they'll leave comments and shit. I think I never deleted them. Hold on. Honestly, what you ass get for tunneling me? I don't even know what this person's talking about. What are you talking about? I don't know who this person is. But they're mad at me. You know what I mean? Ugly as fucking tunnels because he is ass. Ugly duck tunnels hardcore. Ugly as fuck. I don't know what that means. 4 out of 10. I love what the fuck is this? Tunneling. You know what I mean? Fuck you. Like, these people go out of their fucking way. They go out of their way to find a way to shit talk you. They go out of their way to do it. And that, in my opinion, is more toxic than doing it in the game. Neither is excusable, obviously. But to me, going outside of the fucking game, going so fucking far, bro. I have had people come into, I've never had any other game I've streamed, man. Any other game. I've never had another game community where someone will come to my Twitch chat and spend actual hours arguing with me because they didn't like the way I played the game. It just does not happen as often in other communities. It just doesn't.
I don't know how to... Again, I have played Dota for over 10 years. I can just say that opinion is simply incorrect. You might be confusing toxicity with entitlement, and that's fine, and I'm hoping I'm explaining the difference there, but it's just simply not more toxic. Again, I understand every once in a while you'll have some psycho taking shit outside of a game, blah, blah, blah. That happens in every game. It's not more. The most I would argue is it's just the same or something like that. So that's the end of the rant. anytime I see something like this from an outsider, I always get a little defensive about it. But
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of fundamentally disagree with Scott on this, man. I feel like Scott is just like I said earlier, I feel like his perception might be like mixed up because he just simply doesn't experience the same thing that the common man does or that like little smaller channels do. And he, like, again, he's also like he's not as, what, bullyable is not a word, but because he doesn't like look bad or he's not like part of the unconventionally attractive crowd like I am, he also doesn't deal with the same amount of like easy to bully mentality people have. So I feel like his perception needs other experiences to inform it, and that's what I feel like.